Hi, I've been waiting for a while to make another video. Uh, I spoke about archetypes last week in Serbia, and I wasn't feeling all that well this weekend, so that's why I waited a bit before continuing to make videos. Um, I know it's probably a lot easier to find information about all this in English. Uh, but as long archetypes, but as long as I was speaking about it in Serbian, and I'm making videos in both languages, so I'm making another one in Serbian. So why archetypes? Why I decided to make a video about this? Because while talking with my clients and some other energy workers and my colleagues, I've discovered that people don't really know anything about this concept. They don't know what they're working with, what they're seeing, and when clients ask them, the clients are not receiving proper answers, because they've asked me when we see saints, what are saints, and gods, and basically it's archetypes. For me, archetypes are like a collective psyche that we all tap into, and it's an energy. It's actually a cosmic energy. It's something that exists independently of us, but it's also something that was sort of created. We created it as a collective, so it's a collective consciousness and unconsciousness. It's collective uh, consciousness that created it, and when something receives enough energy, it starts existing on its own. So we usually tap into those energies, and they do exist, from what I've seen, independently of us, from us, because they are cosmic energies. It's just that we see it through certain archetypes, depending on our belief system, on our cultural system, on our upbringing, our programs and filters that have been developed through many influences, including parental influences, cultural influences, belief systems, religious systems, and other things. And before I continue giving examples, I will read, because I'm speaking about something that has been talked about. There are definitions, and I will read so that I don't say something wrong, because it's not my definition, it's not my concept. I'm talking about something that's well known to people in certain areas, and it's an academic term. First of all, the first one who was talking about archetypes and who coined them in a way is Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, psychotherapist, and he developed this notion. Although it existed before him, it's just him that sort of gave it meaning, definition, and life, because there are other therapists that are using his work, and I basically read and learned from Jungian therapists, so this is why I speak about those concepts a lot. So the definitions that I will be reading is from John Bradshaw, that I already mentioned, from Homecoming, and he is working with the archetype of the wonder child, inner child, and this is one of the archetypes that is well known, that is also coined by Jung. So, what is an archetype? An archetype is a representation of the cumulative and collective experience of mankind, a universal potential in every human being. Jung felt that when a certain pattern of human experience was clearly established, it became part of our collective psychic inheritance. He believed that the archetypes are passed on genetically like DNA. Archetypes are like organs of psyche, comparable to the skeletal structures of our body. Archetypes are congenital psychic predispositions derived from inherited patterns created in past generations. These patterns emerge when certain thresholds of human experience are reached. There are the things that he said and gave examples here, but I won't be talking about that now. I will also read from Sacred Contracts by Caroline Myss. I've got this book in 2007 or 8, something like that. And she spoke a lot about archetypes, and she created a new list of archetypes. Of course, she was a Jungian psychotherapist, and she created a new list of archetypes according to his work and the astrological work and some of her own work. So in this book, she gives an explanation of that, but it's also a book that you work on. It's not something that you merely read. And I've read it quite a while ago, and I don't remember it by heart now, but she's been taking a bit too far, because not everything that she mentions here, I don't think that everybody has those. I mean, they can be, but I'm looking at this topic from a different perspective than she does. This is the Sacred Contracts in Awakening Your Divine Potential. Is about the remembering or sort of finding what is it that you came here to do on earthly plane. What is the archetype that you're playing out here, as a role that you're playing out here. And what I do is going a bit above that, because when we talk about soul purpose, we talk about the purpose of the soul on the higher planes, what we really are, what you really do there. Not only on earthly plane, as I already spoke about it. So this is why I'm looking at it from a different perspective. So Jungian perspective is a bit closer to me than this one, but yeah. Anyway, I'm reading something from here, so this is why I'm saying this. Carl Jung is generally credited in the modern world as having introduced archetypes, although the idea had been supposedly originally by Plato. Jung did first develop the concept of the collective unconscious, the ever-present sum of all experiences that the human race has acquired through history. These experiences appear in all ages and all latitudes, but also appear in individual dreams, fantasies, visions, and ideas. Beyond these seminal ideas, Jung actually described a rather limited number of archetypes. He elaborated in detail only shadow, wise old man, child and child hero, mother, primordial and earth, maiden, anima, female pattern, animus, male pattern. Each of these, he says, has a multitude of variations, and they change and evolve constantly. They are fluid and cannot be rigidly classified. According to Jung, archetypes provide the foundation for our personality, our drives, feelings, beliefs, motivation, and actions. And I do agree, from what I've seen through my work, that these few archetypes that he gave are actually the foundation of everything, and all the rest of the work is derived from there, like she derived it. According to this book, if you're wondering, my archetype is a lover. And I worked on it for a year. I read this book for a year. So it took me a while to go through it and understand and work on myself. So when I said this, I also should mention that Jung also believed, and through our work we see that we have the archetypes can have dysfunctional and functional treaties of personality treaties. So they do have a personality. They they are, although a collective consciousness, and they are made from a collective, they do have some treaties, which we all have, of course, but they do have personality treaties. So they can be functional and dysfunctional. And basically, it's through our filters that we understand and receive those energies and project them. And from what I've understood, the dysfunctionalities is ours, and we, by working on ourselves, we are healing and clearing those dysfunctions in ourselves, and in this way connecting to more and more clearer energy and a better understanding of the cosmic energy or the archetype that we are projecting. So as a collective energy, this can be also surpassed. So so I'm not focusing on the dysfunctionalities now, because this is basically what we're doing on in sessions, especially in individual and group sessions. And the idea is that we become functional, not dysfunctional, to become healed. And these dysfunctional treaties can also serve a purpose, and they do serve a purpose for us. This is why we have them. But at some point they become a burden for us, and they become a destructive pattern for us. So we have to change it, and we have to change the role that we are focusing on. So speaking of those archetypes that he mentioned, I've read it because what I recently started doing is in my group work, in group sessions, I've created sort of a process, a flow. I mean, no, I didn't create it; it just happened in this way. So I was mentioning before that I was being told I should do a program, a curriculum of spirit guides and all the different ways that they present themselves to us, which are archetypes, all the different archetypes that guides present themselves to us. And this is what I've started. I will basically start with the work with the inner child, actually the wonder child. And wonder child is one of the archetypes of the soul. Wounded child, or the inner child, which we usually connect to, is our unhealed self, our emotional self. This is the archetype of our emotional self. But the wonder child is the archetype of our soul. It's the first archetype of the soul, and it's in the first way that the soul represents itself to us, because as a healed child, it's authentic, it's intuitive, and it's connected, and it's pure. When we speak about children, we imagine something pure, which children, if tended properly and not hindered in their development, children are. So this is why this is the first archetype. But also speaking about animus and anima, which we all have, which is our inner male and our inner female, animus and female anima. We all have those energies inside of us. I also when I work with inner child, we work with your inner family, because this is your inner family, and this is the archetype of our inner world, inner family. And we all know families can be dysfunctional, and usually, or at least people that I work with come to me because their families were dysfunctional. And we first tend to your inner world, your inner family, and when I work with animus and anima, I work with those energies in a sense of balancing your inner world. And this is what the inner child does, the wonder child. We first connect to the wonder child, then to the animus and anima, and then we sort of blend and balance them. This is what the energies do. This is whatever needs to happen for the client, it happens. But the wonder child is a link that creates balance between inner male and inner female, between animus and anima. I'm showing it wrongly because here is animus and here is anima. I'm looking at myself and my own reflection, so this is why. And so basically the child, I won't call it a peacemaker. Please don't understand this literally, because I'm not saying you should use children as your help for creating peace and making up in your relationship pattern. No, I'm talking about the archetype. I'm talking about your inner world, and I'm talking when we connect with your wonder child. This healed child can be your guide, and it becomes your guide, and then can create a balance between your male side of self and your female side of self. And if there are disbalances and conflicts within you, which usually are, especially with the ones who have lived in dysfunctional families and they don't know better, because they don't remember how a functional family looks like, the child changes in your inner world, changes the scenery, and it usually makes your male, because they are a mother and a father to it, so they hold hands, or it's a different scenario for everybody, but it's usually something like that, and it's enough. They either dance and create balance through dance, or communicate, or if they're turning their back to each other, they face, and they usually take the child between them, with them, because this is how we heal your inner family. And when you heal your inner family, you project a different reality for yourself from the inside out. You cannot change who your real family is, but you can change what triggers you and how you perceive some things that have happened, and you can change your inner world. And when changing that and changing what triggers you and how you respond to those triggers, and this is usually enough for some things, not for some major problems, but further work needs to be done. But this usually becomes enough, because this is changing your subconscious, and you become sort of whole on the inside. And for me, this is the Holy Trinity, because there is a mother, and of course in my culture the Holy Trinity is Father and the Son and Holy Ghost. But for me, Holy Spirit. But for me, Holy Spirit is a female energy and a female emanation, and I've for a long time I have understood it like this, and I was really observed strangely when I was saying this, but it's a female energy. So it's a holy family. It's the Holy Trinity inside of you. And when you fix it inside of you, you can project it outside. And from there, then we work with guides, and the way your guides present themselves to you, which are different kinds of archetypes. So they usually come in pairs to me, and not to all of my clients, but to most. So this is also one of the ways of balancing your inner male and female energies. But your guides are also something that is outside of you. That is the energy that exists outside of you, and they don't usually. I've spoke about guides, so I won't be speaking about it again. But they are not. They, at least to my clients, they don't present themselves as divinities. They are ethereal beings and can present themselves as humanoid beings, but they usually present themselves as light, or different color light, different shapes and geometric patterns, like balls of different colors, animals. So when we speak about power animals, these are our archetypes of our guides and also our soul, but there are different kinds. I won't be going into that because I'm not talking about shamanism here. But shamanism is the topic that it's close to me. And also in shamanism, it's sort of a, for me, it's a belief system. It's a spirituality practice, and the first spiritual practice actually that we all sort of belong to at some point. So it's very close to all of us, and we can find it in our collective psyche at some point, as I found it in mine. And there were things that came out that I didn't know consciously, and I never read about it. So this is how I know. And I also have many clients with the same experience that happens too. And besides that, it's very easy to connect. Animals do exist. We can see them. And at some point, if there is a species that didn't exist, it existed. There are proofs of that. So it's easy to connect to this energy. You can, it's representable. So that's one of the reasons, I believe, why. And also it's because we do have they also have sort of personality treaties that we either have inside of us or we need to develop. And it's easy to connect to this energy and understand what they're saying better to us. So there are different kinds, and I won't be going on whether that's a power animal, shadow animal, totem. That's all different archetypes representing different things, but archetypes. This is what I saw, how guides present themselves. I'm talking about guides now. Then they can present themselves as different kinds of feathers, which belong to different birds, again, animals again. And angels, angelical beings, angelical presences, or archangels, but less archangels than more angels, which are also archetypes of a different realm, but archetypes and part of our collective psyche, collective consciousness. They can present, guides can present themselves to you, not always as light beings, because this is the contract that you have with them, and this is something that you need in this point for a certain reason. And this is why they present themselves to you in this way. But you clients usually need to understand that this is the role that they are taking for the sake of them, for their own sake, for the sake of their protégé of the client. So then we work with soulmates, because this is also part of the collective psyche, which is not unconscious anymore. It's been talked about a lot. It's also an archetype. Divine, I already spoke about divine inner male, inner female, but divine feminine and divine masculine. Soul groups, soulmates, twin flames, divine marriage, all archetypes. That doesn't mean it's not real, because of course it's real when we go to soulmate group and you find some other beings that are separate from you, and they can exist, they can be incarnate or not, but they do exist separately from you, especially when they're incarnate. But the point is that they're part of the collective energy that you belong to also. And this is what you see when we discover which ray, which color all of you are, depending on what you learn together, when you come here and what you do there. What you do there, you don't do as a group, you do individually. What you do here, you do individually, but as a group you have same task, same learning points. And this is also an archetype, but that doesn't mean that archetypes are not real, that they are not real. And it's not confusing actually when you get into it, but it for somebody who's listening this for the first time, I guess it can be a bit confusing. So excuse me if I am confusing you. I'm all into soulmates and soul groups, don't get me wrong. And this is why I mentioned in the beginning that by the sacred contracts, my soul signature, what I do here is a lover. And when I mentioned that it has a shadow side and positive and dysfunctional way, in a dysfunctional way, it can be different. many ways. It can be presenting itself as somebody who begs for love, who seeks love, or somebody who cannot receive love, or somebody who is a mistress or a Don Juan. But in a healed and proper way, when you give and receive love, I'm not talking only about partners love. I'm talking about the archetype of a lover, who is the lover of the divine and who is the beloved. And it's it's basically this is what I do now. Why isn't it? It's you're just love. You are being love. you transmit love. And I guess this is one of my topics that I work a lot with people on is on soulmates and soul groups, because of this archetype that I have. So yeah, and the next thing that we do is archetypes of the divine. And this is why I read the definitions in the beginning, because it mentions also that as much as these are our patterns, and our patterns are created by the collective belief system, and you know, in different cultures you have different divinities, you have different religious beliefs and belief systems, and these are all archetypes. And some might be negative, and some you might not like and don't want to belong to, but they are still there, they still exist. And you know, so many divinities around. You know, you have Hinduism's so many divinities, and you had in Greek mythology a lot of divinities, and then in Roman mythology a lot of divinities, and all of these divinities were in conflict with each other, and especially pairs, male and female, who were pairs also, but at some point they were in conflict. So they were all functioning from their dysfunctionality. And this is not the point. We want to all grow out of our dysfunctional patterns and change the way, not only the way we observe the world, but change the way that we affect the world. So this is why I said that I start with your inner family and finish with the archetypes of the divine and with bodhisattvas. And they can be different for everybody. It comes differently for everybody. And usually they are something that's familiar to us and to a client through its religious system. So I mainly work with people who are Christian, Orthodox Christian, and they see archetypes in this sense. And sometimes they are Hindu gods, and that also depends on whether they accepted the system and they belong to it at some point. And yeah, speaking about that, when we work in the past, through our past lives, we also work with the collective conscious, your subconscious, but you belong to a certain culture at a certain time, and you accepted belief systems of these cultures. So this is why you have memories of these divinities and belong to the collective energy that's belonging to this ray, to this group, to this school, basically. But when you belong to a certain group, to a certain ray, on a higher level, you actually belong to a certain school, and you're to a certain teacher who is the representation of the divine. In my culture, in Serbian culture, there are saints, different kinds of saints, and I haven't had that many people coming from the Catholicism and other religious systems, but they're also belief systems. So that's all again belonging to a certain archetype, corresponding to a certain archetype. And I don't know if I'm explaining this properly. I actually, in my last video in Serbian, this was the first time I put all this into words. I was not even thinking about it. I was just, channeling what came. Now I'm struggling a bit because I forgot what I said, and I'm not channeling as much because I wasn't feeling all so well. So yeah, and I was working yesterday, so I had a very long session. So I was channeling then, not now. And yeah, so archetypes also represent belief systems of our collective, conscious or unconscious, and mainly unconscious, and different religious systems are archetypes. So even spiritual practices, shamanism, Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, you name it. I don't know why I can't remember any more of them, but you got the picture. And when I was speaking about those divinities, they when they come as saints, we call them saints, but they're usually ascended masters. They are ascended masters, and they are beings that have been incarnating at some point, like us, and they don't do that anymore. And at certain points, they have been different personalities. They didn't live these lives that we know that they lived as saints, that from which they ascended. Whether some of them existed, some of them didn't, that doesn't matter. It's just that they are, as archetypes, they are real, and those divinities that we connect to have psychological treaties that we do have. We belong to this energy. Usually also what I saw is that archetypes of divinity and divinity, our higher selves, present themselves to us as divinity, gods and goddesses. And I spoke about that a bit, but I cannot confirm this because I have had a few clients who saw separately higher self and separately soul self. I also did that, and the client that I had yesterday, she also had something like that. And she also confused me with something because speaking about archetypes here, she said that there was this old guy, who is in another galaxy, and who is an advisor of some ruler who exiled him because he wanted to rule over, to have dominion and to have all the power, which was not always good for the people or whatever those beings were. They were humanoid beings. She saw them as humanoid beings, and she was in exile. So and then she said when he couldn't do what he was doing there anymore, and which was he was reading stars through charts of some sort. She's doing the same thing basically now. She's doing astrology, and she described some practice in which he does this. But she said when he was exiled, he sort of split inside of himself in several different parts and sent out those parts in different worlds, and they're not all are on Earth. Not others. There are others on Earth. That's what she said. and they're in different worlds, and he connects to them. And this is how he works. This is how he does what he is supposed to do, but he cannot do that there. So that all sounded like from what I saw, what the higher self is doing. But I mean, I don't know, these were not her terms, and we didn't know. Was quite, I mean, I asked when he was exiled, what happened to him? Did he die? And stuff like that. He was really old. And when he split himself, how did he do that? What happened to his body? And she said he didn't die. He just split energetically, and he's sort of sending information. She basically started doing astrology, and she started remembering it through genes when she was 10. And she just started doing it, and she knew it. She just knows things. And she has, when she looks at charts, she has visions, and he's the one sending the visions. So, yeah. But not only to her, but to other parts of himself. And this basically sounded like what I've learned so far about higher self. So I got a bit confused because, you know, it's another galaxy, another planet, and we're talking about here about concepts, which basically they are to us because it's abstract and it's not something we can touch or see. Maybe we can sense if we are sensitive enough, but some people can't do that, or not even that. So yeah, it was an interesting session anyways too. So that's why we basically connect to I do this in group sessions. This is why I was mentioning it. This program I do in group sessions. I'm returning to my topic. And I do it through hypnosis, and then we share, and through some other tasks. And I've seen while working with a group that I worked with in this manner for about a year, but we had different topics. I changed them according to what the group needs. And they have developed a lot. And basically when the divine archetypes, when we connect to our God and Goddess self, and I invite both. I don't just work I mainly work with women, but they're all women in group, but I don't invite your goddess and your inner goddess, because I don't think this is the proper way to do it. Of course, we should connect to our female power, but it's creating this balance also. And when we talk about functionality, we're not talking about this balance. We want to be in balance. So I invite both, because we have animus and anima inside of us, and meaning that we have our counterparts as God and Goddess self. So this is why I invite both, so that they can blend these energies and create balance. Because by healing our inner male, we can also heal our relationship with our partner without trying constantly to point fingers and judge and try to change him, because the best way to change somebody else is by changing our inner world. So the other person either follows or not, but it doesn't have to be a whole lot of drama about it. So you either evolve or go different ways. Without being too, I don't know, whatever, all the patterns we can have in relationships. I don't make it sound easy. It's not. It's really not, and I know it. But oh, I'm sorry. It's the proper way. I think this is the best way to do it. And at some point it shows results this or that way. And anyway, I'm holding this guy here, my little angel, because I was mentioning archangels are angels, and they are archetypes too. Aliens, I believe these are archetypes too, because generally when we speak about soul, self, it's, we are energy, we're consciousness, but energy, and we are an energy wave, and light. So we are all of it. When we connect to our archetype, we transcend all these beliefs and patterns and all these belief systems, although God and God itself is also part of a belief system. We can also transcend that. So what I saw when my clients connect to the soul self, and I do work with the soul self, and I saw this difference now. I've been taught, obviously, by some beings, and there is no no polarities with the soul. It blends it. And even speaking about gender, male and female, it can present itself to you as a male form because it has this vibration more, maybe because you need to work on these aspects of yourself more. But, like I spoke, the higher self presents itself in as male or female, but the soul can do that, can go in a different way, that there are no polarities there. This is the point why we want to connect to the soul self, because we blend the polarities and we understand that we are it, we are all of it. And what I saw with the archangel energies that I connect a lot to, they don't have polarities. They don't have gender. They can present themselves to us as a humanoid energy with wings. This is how we see it. This is how we read those energies through our filters, through our programs. And we are basically, these energies are like crystalline energies. So we are like crystal or a diamond, if you want to. And the clearer the vessel, the clearer the diamond crystal is, the better the light shines through it, and the clearer the colors, and you better see it and you better understand it. So we have to, like in the crystal, you have to clear it from once in a while so that it shines better light. And you can see, we use refractors to see which crystal is clearer so it shines better and it has better quality. And I'm not talking about quality, it's just metaphorically now. But the less of these belief systems and programs and collective consciousness we have in ourselves. So when you come to a certain point in your evolution, in your soul evolution, you do deal with these collective energies and collective programs and collective patterns and collective belief systems, whether they're of your ancestors, known or unknown, whether they're because you belonged to the certain culture at a certain point and you lived there. It's when you come to the point when you have to evolve to another level, to a higher level on that plane, then you deal with it. And then you can also deal with the galactic history, that it's in our DNA and in our energy, that we cannot remember consciously, but some people do remember it in sessions. And this is where we talk about aliens. So they're also archetypes, whether they're future or our past, doesn't really matter, because we have it in our memory as collective. And dragons and mermaids, they're also archetypes, and they're myths that existed in the collective psyche, and this is why they're real on astral plane. All of these things, all of these beings are real. They're beings in just different form and in different density than ours, so we cannot see it unless we clear a bit more of our own programming. So our vision becomes a bit clearer. And so basically what we do, especially in individual sessions, this is why I spoke about group sessions, but in individual sessions, we deal with your myths. So all of these past lives and everything that you lived is a certain, your personal myth that you've been living on your personal journey of your development and your soul evolution until you transcend all these belief systems and the stories that you have and you connect to or you have inside of you. And then you get to write your own story, and not only get to write, but you are it. You understand that you are all of it. You are the divinity, but you're above it, and you are the light, and you're above it. You are the consciousness, and whatever the next level is. I mean, we don't know. This is the cosmic story, and we're exploring it, and there's not too many information about it, but I do my best to continue to explore it. So I hope I made some sense. Yeah, when I speak about the alien, I wanted to mention it, speak about the energy and archetypes and collective energy. When we speak about the higher self and the alien self and some future self, they are collective consciousness. Because many of us belong to the same ray, as I said, and they form another being on another level, like I mentioned in this example of my client from yesterday. So in that sense, the aliens, like the god and Ra, the Egyptian god Ra, and the alien beings known as Ra are archetypes, and they also say that there's God Ra is equal as Archangel Michael, and then from what I see it, if they are the collective energy and they're beings that created, us, and we are them. If they're atoms in a sense, and they are archetypes, and we them. We all are Ra. So yeah, that's just a little bit of my understanding of things. So maybe I'm getting something wrongly, and we come to this and understand this through working on our own personal myths, and we are all here on this earthly plane to live out this personal myth through which we learn and discover not only who we really are, but that we can evolve and transcend and be all of it. Because as an energy, you are all of it. There is a space and place when you become like pure consciousness and nothing. Not all of it, but nothing and everything. Yeah, I've experienced it, but I'm not talking about it. So I think I've said everything, and I've said a bit too much, and I really do hope I made sense, because it sounded like a bit of a jam in my mind, and honestly lately I've been feeling a bit of a resistance to make these videos, which is really strange. I don't know why. I have to work a bit on that. So yeah, I didn't sound to myself as all together. so I hope I made sense to the best of my knowledge at this moment, and this is where I'm at the moment. This is my understanding of something. So yeah, I hope it benefits you, and I hope I manage to bring it a bit clearer to you of what archetypes are and how they work and present themselves to us. Thank you very much for following my channel, and for all your attention, and some people don't make comments, but they write to me, so thank you. Bye.